People in the AI space talk about the decoupling of labor and profit, right? The idea that to make money, you don't really need to work anymore. And on an individual level, like with an e-commerce dropshipping business, that's cool. But as a broader cultural trend, that means as a worker, you are less valuable. And many fear, and I think many would argue it already has led to increased unemployment and kind of the disempowerment of the working class, or of some members of the working class, where they just don't need us anymore. And initially that does seem bad to some degree, right? You'll lose your job or you won't be able to get a job. We've already experienced serious issues with the job market, at least I have, and so has my friends and family. Some would say it's already due to AI. I think it's just due to economic forces, and I'm really not going to get into all of that right now. But I think this could actually be a good thing to some degree. There's obviously going to be downsides. There's going to be real downsides, and we could argue about whether or not the positives outweigh the negatives. It doesn't matter because we're going to get it whether we want it or not. So we're going to get the negatives, and we all know about the negatives, but I figured, hey, we could talk about the positives a little bit. Even if the negatives are worse and it comes with the negatives, we may as well try to leverage and take advantage of and be grateful for the positives, whatever they might be. I think a positive could be more freedom for the working class. They don't need us to work. They don't need us to pay taxes. They don't need us, so they might leave us alone, or it might be easier to get left alone. We can just go live off grid. We can live in sewer systems. I mean, maybe we can even live a normal life. I'm not saying we have to be like vagabonds or homeless people, as fun as that might seem. But they don't need our labor. They don't need us, so they don't need to enslave us. I'm not trying to say all employment is slavery. I'm just saying that they might leave us alone a lot more because they don't need our labor. I think that could be pretty awesome. I think we can already see that trend throughout history, right? What ended slavery? Automation, farm tools. We didn't need slaves working on our farms anymore, so we freed them. There was no longer a strong economic incentive to have a slave class. But there was a strong economic incentive for a while to have people work in factories. Automation removed that. We no longer have children working in factories because there's no longer an economic incentive for that. These days, or a few years ago, we have a lot of people working hourly wage jobs. We have a lot of people working 9-to-5s. Maybe that's going to go down because there's no longer the economic incentive for that. And immediately it's like, we're all going to lose our jobs. That's bad. And maybe it is bad. But looking back, slavery, the end of slavery in America, that seems pretty cool. I think that's pretty good for the black folks. As much as they still, maybe suffer from some systemic oppression because of the Democrats feeding them lies. I mean, but that happens to us all, as in like all Americans, even as white folk. But at the end of the day, as a black person, you have more freedom now that you're not a slave. I don't really think we need to make an argument for that. Obviously, the average black man has more freedom than if he were enslaved, like actually enslaved on a plantation. And in some ways, as the working class, we are enslaved to some degree, obviously to a lesser degree, but we're enslaved to some degree. And maybe with the increase of automation and AI, we'll get a lot more freedom, and there'll no longer be the economic incentive to enslave us. They will no longer push for public school as much because they don't care about hourly wage employees. Maybe they won't crack down. They probably still want to tax us, but I just think there could be a lot of positives to it, and I think we should look for those positives and really try to leverage that and just kind of avoid being noticed by the elites and do our own thing. Also, this is going to mean maybe going to college isn't going to matter. Maybe you're not going to be able to get a high-paying job or something like that because the elites, they don't want you anymore. And if you're born poor, like me, if you're born not in the 10%, or I don't know, we could bicker about where that line is. But if you're born below a certain economic level, you're just not wanted. That doesn't mean you can't live a great life. You could arguably live an even better life. Some of those people, you know, in power are kind of freaks. I don't necessarily want to be friends with them or anything. They're kind of like pedophile Satanists. That's not cool. So it doesn't mean that you can never live a great life, even if you can never ascend in the social ladder completely. But I think within our own sub-communities, which maybe already exist or will be forced to create, we can still be valuable, and I think we should focus on that. Kind of like I was saying in my first video, we should focus on our own best interest, what's best for us individually, and then for our immediate friends and family. And if we focus on that, we don't worry about overall social status or monetary wealth. Money's obviously important, but think about actual wealth. And we focus on acquiring that for ourselves and our immediate social circle, I think we probably get pretty far. And this whole AI, automation, loss of job stuff, maybe it'd pan out in our favor, right? I know that's kind of a running joke online of like, oh, you guys are all worried about AI taking your jobs. Joke's on you, I'm already unemployed. I think there's actually some truth to that. What are they going to take from us? Obviously, we have a lot of good things, but I'm just saying, as like a young, disaffected man, what are they going to take from you? If they need you less, maybe they'll leave you alone more. I think this could go well, to some degree. They could also like genocide us, which would not be cool, but I don't think they will. I think we'll be fine. Yeah, so I hope that brightens your day just a little bit. Not to cope too hard, but I think there will be positives and there'll be negatives, but we may as well get the positives we can take, because the negatives are coming whether we like it or not. Thanks for watching.